start that. Where's my share screen button? Share my screen. All right. Go ahead and type yes if you guys can see my screen and the slideshow. Awesome. All right. I'm going to leave this here and move this over. Okay. So welcome to our first monthly webinar this year for the 17-18 school year. Laura and I are sitting together in our office in Columbia, and we're going to go through all of this together, and then we're recording. So as soon as the recording is finalized, we'll post it to the bookshelf so you can go back and review should you need to. As you go through, feel free to type questions, and I'm going to go ahead and answer them all at the end. So it's hard to keep up with them. Now my screen's frozen. Give me a minute. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to do some back to school reminders today. We're going to talk about transition updates for our transition audit, and then we're going to talk about the audit. Laura and I went to training a couple weeks ago, and we've got some good information for you. So our first reminder, accommodations and modifications. A lot of you guys are going back to school this week, next week, and the following week. Just make sure that you are sending your teachers notification of their students' accommodations before school starts. That's something that the state is going to be looking at when they come in and do an audit. So make sure that your teachers have that and signs that they're acknowledging they got those accommodations before your first day of school. And then obviously from the first day on, be sure that you have a tracking method and that you're documenting when students are provided those accommodations and modifications. For COSEF, Child Outcome Summary Form, make sure all your little kids that are moving in, if they're under 6 or around 6, maybe turned 6 over the summer, make sure that you're requesting the COSEF from their sending district. So if they're under 6, you need to complete an entry form unless they came with one. And if they turn 6 over summer or just right around the beginning of the school year, make sure that you do an exit form unless the sending district sent you one. You can also request those because sometimes they forget to send them. But that will really help us next spring when we're going through our Child Outcome Summary report, and I won't have to come back to you and ask you to get those documents together.
And just remember, as you enter the COSEF in, that little chevron, that little flag will pop up now for any new students you enter. I added that last spring, I think.
Yeah, yep.
So that'll help give you a reminder, too, that you've done one and you need to do an exiter.
All right. My next reminder is about records requests. It's a high traffic time right now for transfer students, so make sure that you are staying on top of your records requests. Whatever your process is, whether it's using your, Power School person or your school secretary, just make sure that they know what the process is, that you're being notified as kids are coming in, and that you're checking for all of your new students, not just students that you think might have a disability. And then double check your dates. Do you have any kids that have early year annuals, so in the next few weeks, or reeval? Do you have any that were sent to overdue, and maybe you need to get with the sending district and find out if they started the paperwork or not? Make sure that you are staying up to date with your dates and checking and getting meetings scheduled for anything that should be coming up in the next few weeks. And your IEP review tool, and our question there is, are you using it? So you're getting a lot of new kids in, and some of these kids you might be accepting their IEPs from their sending district. So you need to be making sure that you're using that IEP review tool, because if you accept that IEP, that non-compliance is now on you.
Don't accept any Harry Potter IEPs.
Yeah, please don't accept any Harry Potter IEPs. If you need the IEP review tool, that's on our bookshelf. So go ahead and visit that and download the tool and use it for your IEPs. Another reminder for staff training, make sure that you are conducting your staff training, reminding them about FERPA and RTI and IDEA and 504 and all of those fun things, but also keeping your documentation that you did that. Make sure that you keep your sign-in sheets if you're using a PowerPoint, if you use a flyer, whatever it is, make sure that you keep that documentation because you'll need it for us for your CGI later on in the year. And then finally, transfer comparable services. Make sure that you are meeting your 5-day deadline. This is the time of year when those are coming up really fast. So you're making sure that you're doing those compliantly, you're consulting with the parents, and then at the 30-day mark, you're either doing an annual review or holding an amendment meeting. But just really keep track of those transfer kids, their enrollment dates, and their 5-day dates and their 30-day dates. I'm going to pause for questions, and I'm going to pull up the chat box so I can see. I saw a couple pop in. If you've got questions about just this reminder section, then I will answer them now. Let me see. Elizabeth, I will answer your question about accommodations. Laura and I can answer that for you privately. 504 webinar was not recorded because it had live Enrich in there, and that's not allowed. But the 504 portion of Enrich works just like special ed. You'll, instead of selecting special ed when you start a program, you'll select 504. And I believe that it's in there today. You'll start to see that. The COSEF form is when you're on the programs tab, you can find the COSEF forms through Add Action. It's kind of towards the upper right-hand side. Staff training is for all of your teachers in your school. Anybody that is going to be dealing with students, because they need to know, you know, what to look for, what to do when they want to refer a child with a disability. They need to know all about FERPA, the requirements under IDEA. So full staff training. Any other questions about those reminders? Has anything changed in receiving of records through Enrich? No, nothing has changed this year about the electronic transfer process in Enrich. It's all the same. I don't know that we have a FERPA document. I can check though. Let me make a note. No, contacting the district just one time is not enough unless you get an answer on that first time. You need to keep contacting them until you get an answer from them. Thank you, Valerie. Valerie pointed out there's a PowerPoint available for FERPA on the Google section of the bookshelf. We have to send some things out anyway, so I can send that out. All right, so I'm going to move on, and then, like I said, if you've got questions, please just let us know. All right, so I'm going to let Laura talk a little bit about transition. She's got some new information hot off the presses.
Hot off the press from research to practice. So I sent out an email about this and added some checklists and stuff. But just a reminder that any transition IEPs you do from this point on, they all must include an independent living skill, you know, per the email that I sent. And those checklists will help you define what they may look like. Traditionally, before, you would have thought of the independent living skills for, you know, our intellectually disabled students, but the state is saying that it should include students with, you know, LD or other disabilities, because everybody needs those independent living skills. So it could be things like balancing a checkbook, knowing who to call, you know, to make a doctor's appointment, things like that. But look at those checklists and those things, as they give some really good ideas. All that's been updated and on the bookshelf. I also updated our cheat sheet that we had given you last spring when we did the training. with the screenshots for Enrich, so that's all updated as well. For our audit for the Transition 13, the state is only going to pull and request students who are 16 years and older. Even though we address transition at 13, they only want to see students who are 16 years and older. So what we're asking, we have to submit 40 IEPs to the State Department. So we need 5 of your best indicator 13 IEPs by August 11th. And those will all be submitted via the Let's Work Smart portal. I think, Emma, you put the link up already, didn't you?
So I haven't sent that out yet, but yes, the submission is in the portal, and I'm going to set it to active today. So if you can't already see it, you'll be able to see it and turn those names in.
Okay, so one of the questions is, if all of our 5 IEPs are transition, can we submit the same 5 for both requirements? No. So if you're talking about for the general audit and then the transition audit, indicator 13, they need to be different students. So,
and we'll talk a little bit more about the requirements of the kids you send for the general audit in a minute.
If you don't have students who are 16 years or older, then you don't need to worry about submitting them. So it'd only be students who are 16. If you don't have 5 and you only have 2, then send us 2. Okay, so it's going to depend on the number you have. This is, obviously going to affect our high schools more than our middle schools. But if you happen to have a 16-year-old that's in middle school, send that. If you don't have any, you don't have to worry about sending us any.
Elizabeth, to answer your question, you and the Greenville transfers will work a little bit differently. We'll ask you for names first, and then we'll ask you to email us the PDF because we don't have direct access to your kids until they're all the way in Enrich.
Correct.
Any other stuff about transition? Do you guys have questions for Laura about transition?
I still think we're in great shape. I know a lot of the independent living skills won't be focused on these ones submitted, and that's okay. We don't expect you to, hurry up and hold all these meetings by August 11th. Just submit what you think are your top 5 right now.
The portal is the Let's Work Smart portal. I will send you a link to that, and I will send you, you'll get an email with credentials as well.
We'll need to send that to all of our things.
All our new schools and coordinators. I'm making a note now. Okay. Valerie, we did not let you know about the submissions before this past Monday because we didn't know the dates, but now we know that we have to turn our student list in fairly quickly. So these are not students, we're not going to send these directly to the state. This is going to allow us to review and then let you know if there's changes to be made or if we've picked any of your students to be sent. So this is literally just for us to kind of have a pool of students to pick from.
Right. We're assuming the state is going to request these names by probably mid-September. So we need a chance to be able to review the IEPs prior to us sending the names to the state. So that's why we're asking for them by, I think that's Monday.
Yep. There's no, other than submitting names, there's no work you need to do right now.
And you should be good, because for our schools that have been with us, we should be good because we started this last spring. So, y'all should be good with these are just indicator 13 IEPs we're asking for right now.
All right.
Valerie, if you can get them done before August 11th, otherwise just submit what you have.
My slideshow is moving slowly.
And just to clarify that, the independent living skills was new information from the state, so, I'm not so worried if we don't have it in every IEP we submit because it was just told to everybody in their August research to practice, so. It will probably be an issue, but I don't think it's just going to be an issue for all of us. So from this point on, start addressing it.
All right. So our big audit is going to be November 13th through November 16th. It's probably going to go past November 16th just because the nature of our district is statewide. They're going to have to go, to all the schools that they want to see, which may be statewide. So there's a good chance it's going to go past November 16th, but they're actually going to be on site with us reviewing files that week of November 13th. The good news is that we can choose our students, so they're not going to give us a list of names. We actually get to choose our best and send them our best, which is great. So what we'd like you guys to do is, again, submit your top 5 IEPs by August 11th through the portal. And that will include, just to keep in mind, that could include contact with those students' parents. So if you've got a student that has an awesome IEP, but a parent that's kind of explosive, I would rethink submitting that student. Let's see what else. They're going to collect staffing licensure, so please start collecting that. We're also going to post a form that we need you guys to fill out in the portal that will include all of your staffing, like your speech teachers, your special ed teachers, your OTs, and that's going to be turned into us by September 5th through the portal. We have not posted that in there yet, so you won't see that yet, but it will be in the next day or two. And then the policies and procedures is something that we have to turn around and submit to them by September 1st. So there are some changes coming because they gave us a rubric and we realized that there are some things that we needed to add to our policies and procedures. But please draft based on the policies and procedures you have right now, so that when we get our changes approved by our attorney, you can turn around and copy and paste what you've got into the new document. It should not be a lot of changes. I also posted a new rubric for the policies and procedures that we're going to use to review yours on the bookshelf. So check that out. It's right at the top underneath policies and procedures, and it will give you a really good guide on what you need to make sure you include in yours.
Well, lots of questions.
Let's see.
This will include our new schools, even our transfer schools. That was a question. So you will also have to submit. In terms of MEVers, the question was that they're a new school, they haven't written any of their IEPs.
You still own your IEPs that transfer to you. So if you you need to submit names, and then if there's any changes that need to be made, we'll ask for those amendment meetings to be held by a certain date, which will most likely be your 30-day date. But, you know, just keep in mind that all your transfer kids, whether you're a new school or not, you own those IEPs when you accept them. And, you know, unless you have an amendment, you need to change them. Whatever non-compliance is in there is yours. Elizabeth, the form, what form are you referring to? The staffing form?
We haven't sent it out.
The staffing form we haven't sent out yet, but it's an unduplicated list of your staff. So they're going to ask for your staff and how many students they serve, and the subject and like what their licensure is. Kelly, I think that Mr. V is holding a training soon about the portal. I will make sure with him, and if he doesn't, I can jump on a webinar and show you. It's not too bad.
When we send out the staffing license sheet, we'll also send out directions on how to fill it out.
So right now, the big focus for you guys should be getting your top 5 IEPs for the general audit. Oh, and so let me talk a little bit about those people. So those children that you choose need to be kind of a wide variety. I don't want like 5 first graders that all have learning disabilities. The state's going to tell us, no, we can't do that. They want kind of a wide sample. So pick, you know, throughout your grade levels and throughout your disability categories, try to get a really good representation of those. And I know that's hard to do with just 5, but don't, you know, just really try not to give us all the same kind of kids.
And if you have more than one special ed teacher, send some from, you know, multiple teachers, not the same teacher.
Yeah, that's another good point. So focus on those 5 for the general audit, 5 for the transition audit, and then, you know, you should be doing this anyway, but make sure you're starting to collect your staffing licenses and make sure everybody is current and valid, and then be drafting your policies and procedures. I just want to give you a heads up, because this is due to the state on September 1st. As soon as we have our new template, we're going to expect you guys to be able to turn around and hand us policies and procedures that we can review. We still have not found out from the state whether they're going to look at 39 policies and procedures or 6 policies and procedures from the schools that they're visiting, or if they just want one district document. So we're hoping to find that out this afternoon, which will give us a little bit more guidance. But we need you guys to be able to turn those around really quickly. So please start or finish drafting them now, because they really should be in place by the time school starts anyway. Okay, let me move this little chat box. So like I said, collect your staff certifications, prepare your school staff for possible interviews. If you have a student selected and they're on site at your school, they're probably going to ask that general ed teacher about the accommodations and what they think the IEP means. So start prepping your staff for that. Make sure that your meeting notices are sent by certified mail. That was something they pointed out during our training that I don't think that as a district we have pushed. But they're saying that, you know, if you're sending a meeting notice by mail, it should be certified mail, because otherwise it could be going to a dead address somewhere. Another point that we learned was that calculators listed as in assistive tech in the special factors, which is something also that we have not pushed. So if you're submitting IEPs to us and we review them, just know that we're going to ask you to put calculator in the special factors if you've got that as an accommodation. Make sure that you have a separate removal justification statement for each discipline. So if they're being removed for speech and reading services, the state wants to see a removal justification for each of those, not just one blanket statement.
And be specific in how it impacts them in the general education classroom. Not just that they need small group, but why? Why are they having to be removed? Be specific about that.
Make sure that you're amending IEPs correctly. This is something that they said that almost every amended IEP they've had to flag because it hasn't been done correctly. Mostly it's with the services. So use the cheat sheet on the bookshelf, and then there's also guidance on the State Department website about ending services, adding new services so that the dates all match up and it doesn't look like a child is supposed to be having X number of minutes for the whole year rather than from the amendment forward. So that's really important. And then gather a list of parents and general ed teachers' emails for this parent and teacher survey. We'll need 3 from each school, but start thinking about who are your really great people to contact that kind of get it. They get special ed, they know what you're doing, they're satisfied, because the state will send surveys out to them. We have not set a date for that or a submission in the portal, just something to think about. Questions about what you can start doing right now?
Just another, as a rule of thumb, as you're going through IEPs that are currently being written, take that form from the website that we shared at the face-to-face and use that as a checklist for each of the IEPs that are currently being written to make sure that it's all in compliance, because that's what the state will use when they look at our IEPs. So if we start using that as a habit, we should not have any problems with our IEPs.
Okay, so for our schools that are directly involved with the audit, so that means that either you're a school that has been chosen for an on-site visit, or a few of your teachers, I'm sorry, not your teachers, your students have been chosen for the actual file audit. We're going to have a face-to-face training for you on Wednesday, September 20th from 10 to 2 here in our Columbia office. I would go ahead and plan on attending that date, and then that way it's on the calendar, and if we have to tell you don't worry about coming, then great, you've got a free day. But go ahead and write down that date now, and we will let you know as soon as we've picked schools and students, and they're approved by the State Department.
So if you want to start sending bribes now for us not to pick your school, that would be good. Just kidding.
And that's it. Does anybody have questions about what we've gone over today?
Y'all are quiet today.
If you want to get a head start on your staffing license, the form is on the state website for their audit, in their audit section. But I'm posting it probably by the end of today. Any questions? Meeting notices and certified mail. Hold on one second. Let me get my checkbox back. Okay, so Elizabeth, your question stopped coming through before. For the staffing licenses, that's going to be for the special education staff. So all of your service providers and your special ed teachers, your school psychologists, everybody that touches special ed. Power School and Enrich do share parent contact information. It must be, Elizabeth, that in your Power School, the correct field is not filled out. So I would have your Power School person reach out to Roberto and make sure that they've got the right fields filled out, because that will pull directly from Power School to Enrich.
It should be on the student homepage, Elizabeth, when you pull each student, not under programs or anything.
Yeah, not under programs.
It's on the profile tab.
Most of your kids are LD. That's okay. If pick those kids, but also I would then pick, if you've got a child with autism, I would definitely send that kid. When I say unduplicated list, that means that if a speech teacher and a special ed teacher share one student, only one of them is going to claim that student on their caseload. And we'll send directions out for that. Yep. Michelle, yes, seriously, for certified mail. So let's discuss that a little bit further. So their point is kind of like the email. You can't count email unless it's a confirmed method of contact, so that you've talked to that parent through email before. It's kind of the same. So they want you to use certified mail so that you've got your bases covered, and you can say, look, I sent this on such and such date, instead of I'm saying I sent this on Wednesday, but it's still sitting here on my desk. It's just to keep you covered.
Elizabeth, we don't have interview questions, and the state does not send them out ahead of time because they don't want canned answers. So those are questions that will not be shared with us prior to the state doing the interviews with people.
Yeah, I would just just let them know. You might be getting contacts from the State Department. They might ask about, special ed, whether it's our special ed program, if you feel supported by the school. We just don't know what kind of questions they're going to be.
Yes,
Angela, yes, 3 parents and 3 teachers for the surveys. We don't have an example of parent and teacher emails.
I don't understand that question. Example of parent and teacher email. So we just need an email that the state will send out the surveys to them. So they just need their emails. And I think on the state website are examples of the surveys.
Elizabeth, let me know what you mean by what about our questions. Jennifer, I'm thinking you're asking, have the students and the schools been selected? They have not yet, but we're looking at the sizes of schools. There's one school that we've already talked to that the state has handpicked, but we've already talked to them. So if you're thinking, is it me? It's not you. You would know. We had a meeting yesterday about that. So Melinda, for the policies and procedures, I would draft using last year's policies and procedures, but we are going to be making changes to certain sections, like the child find section. I think there's not going to be much that's going to change on your end, but the whole template's going to change for us because we've got lots of things to add. So just draft using the sections that you had last year, but just be ready to copy and paste them over. And then there may be one section that you're going to have to describe what you do differently.
So we've made some changes. We're just waiting for our attorney to look them over and give us the green light before we send it out, which he's working on.
Yes. So as soon as we get the okay from him, we will send it out to you guys. For the face-to-face meeting, the times are September 20th, 10 to 2 in our Columbia office.
So So Elizabeth, have we answered those questions now?
I think I got all of them. Roberto's last name is Vargas. Your Power School person should have access to his ticket system. He takes requests by ticket for Power School. He's jumping all over the place.
And Elizabeth, if you have any more specific questions, I'll be out there Thursday so we can talk if you need to.
Jennifer, if you get a confirmation from a parent, like you send one meeting notice out and they confirm, as long as you've got that in writing, you're covered. But the state really is looking for 2 solid forms of meeting notice.
And be sure you document in your contact log that that's what you did. And perhaps copy and paste the email, because that was one of the things they stated, was just saying emailed parent. They want a little more information and what that means.
Angela, you don't have to mail an invitation as long as you have 2 formal attempts. A mailed invitation is not required, but you still have to have 2 formal attempts. Elizabeth, if you'd like to bring somebody to audit training, that's fine.
Transcripts wouldn't be needed to be emailed to anybody.
Jennifer, your question is you want us to upload emails and files. Oh, okay. So I think you're talking about the parent and teacher emails for the surveys or the confirmations. Gotcha, for meeting notice. If that's the way you have the parent confirming they're going to attend, then yes, upload the email into the file because the state's going to want to see that. Any other questions? Yes, Kelly, I have a note to send you the transition email. And then for everybody, I am going to, let's say, 2 o'clock today, I'm going to send an email out to our distribution list. If you don't get an email from me at 2 o'clock, please shoot me an email and let me know, because that means that you are not on our distribution list, and I will make sure you're added. I have tried my best to add new people as they come, but we've got a tech vendor that does that for us, and I'm just not sure where they are in that process, and I want to make sure you guys don't miss the information. So I'm going to send a test email out at 2 o'clock today. If you don't get it, I would say by 2:30, shoot me an email and let me know that you don't have it, and I will make sure that you get added. Any other questions? Thank you. You're welcome, everybody. Have a great day. And if you have questions, just please give us a call or email us, and we'll walk through it. And like I said before, as soon as the recording has finalized, I will post it to the bookshelf.
And we will get through it.
Yes, we'll get through it. It's going to be okay.
And everybody have a great first day, because I know they're coming up soon.
Yep.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I'll give you a call.